Well, Ken, it's been 1 year since we've heard anything from the Federal Bureau of Incomprehension about the Butler PA assassination attempt. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. The summer's almost over. My allergies are starting to kick in, so I'm not sure if I'm a little annoyed because of that or just because all the slop we've seen on Twitter the last 24 hours. But it's good to be with you.
Good to be with you, Ken. It's always good to see you. And I think you and I share a deep distrust of the FBI. We mock them because, look, last week I was feeling pretty good, I would say, because I'm pretty interested in what's going on with this John Bolton raid. But I want to talk about some other things today because you always are on top of the stuff that these guys are doing. We've got this school shooting. We've got of course, the assassination attempt. Where would you like to begin our conversation today?
Well, I guess since it's the 1 year anniversary, we could focus on that for now, and I'm sure the shooting will get brought up. But yeah, as you mentioned, we haven't heard anything since August 28th, 2024, which is just like you said, incomprehensible. I just posted it at the top of my Twitter timeline. Dan Bongino did brief the wife of the murdered firefighter, Corey Comparatori, and Bongino told her that, hey, the gunman Crooks, he identifies them as Crooks, acted
Wow.
alone, and the FBI handled everything was by the books. So washing off the roof the next
Wow.
day, cremating the body a week later, all this is standard procedure. So I think this might be one of the reasons that Bongino's has such a mental breakdown as of late. Like he's lying to a widow. That's got to weigh heavy on the conscience.
I agree, Ken. It's interesting. I haven't even mentioned this before now, but it's a perfect venue to do so. Tomorrow is the deadline, but I actually filed yesterday what's probably my final document in the case of Goodman versus the Allegheny County medical examiner. Judge Daniel Regan was, I feel, very fair. A lot of people pointed out this guy's a Democrat, but you know what? It's the rare instance where a judge is, first of all, being polite to me, and second of all, doesn't seem to be injecting any of his own political opinion into the case. He gave me an opportunity to present him with findings of fact and conclusions of law that might give him the legal authority to order the medical examiner to turn over some of this evidence I've been asking for that would help us understand how they identified the body on the roof. And of course, a lot of the great work that you've been doing, people should definitely check it out at headlineusa.com, and on your X account, people can follow you there at JD Cashless. But a lot of your work has helped me understand some of the details, particularly with regard to the autopsy, etc., and the timeline. And I pointed out in this document that, the assassination attempt was on July 13th at 6 p.m. There was an FBI press conference later that evening, 8 or 9, 10 p.m., something like that, where they announced that it was Thomas Crooks. And you had shown me where the Washington Post or somebody like that reported that they went to the father's house and said, hey, we identified your son by the serial number on your gun.
Mhm.
So they had decided it was Thomas Crooks before anybody had access to any DNA that could have reasonably been attributed to Thomas Crooks. You had mentioned, or someone in the comments of one of our shows had mentioned, maybe they got DNA from his toothbrush at the house. That's not what any of this reporting told us. So I put all of that into this document, findings of fact and conclusions of law. And I guess we'll find out pretty soon if the judge is going to order the medical examiner to tell us anything else.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, I'm not hopeful for the prospect of a ruling in your favor, but I'm really glad that you're getting all this in the record. I think it's going to be important for history. And yeah, a little bit of background on the records that could be provided to you, but they're refusing to, includes autopsy pictures. Like we should get a full unredacted picture of the face. It should be compared to the driver's license of Crooks, and there should be a real facial recognition analysis there. They also have something called histology slides, which, I'm not a big science guy. I don't know exactly what that is, but apparently that's how a medical examiner would test the DNA. Unfortunately, the law is pretty specific. It says, if you pay for these records, they have to provide you the autopsy report, the toxicology, and several other things that I did receive. But the histology slides are not, among those records that they um, have to provide unless there's something in the law that I don't understand.
Well, and it was actually that Pennsylvania Coroner's Act that you brought to my attention. I'm really glad that you and I met when we did, because it really kicked off my lawsuit against the Allegheny County Medical Examiner. And you're right, all of that is stuff that they do have to provide. What I was able to get into was some nuances in established case law in Pennsylvania where things that are not part of those histology and other medical things that are involved in the examination, photographs of him, notes from the police, any kind of stuff like that, that isn't part, their attorney made this whole argument about a non-criminal investigation because he's shot by the police, it's not a criminal investigation versus somebody else killing him. But they got into some details there, and I feel like I was able to make some good points. The fact that they had turned certain aspects of this over to Congress really undermines their argument that, for privacy issues or whatever, they don't want to give it over. So I'll tell you, I agree with your prediction that we will probably be disappointed, but from my interactions with Judge Regan, I have to say he seems like a decent man who wants to do the right thing. And I would lean more towards a likelihood that he may rule in my favor, but I have a feeling that even if he does, the medical examiner just won't comply. And what am I going to do in that case? I mean, I guess I would have to, I don't know. We'll have to take it to the next step, but
Try to get him for contempt of court. That's a really great point about them disclosing it to Congress. To me, yeah, it seems very reasonable that you could argue that that opens up a door, because what's the difference between Congress and you or me? This isn't classified evidence, so
right.
it's not like you need a security clearance to see it. So yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I'm having a little bit of issue in my own lawsuit. So I'm thankful to Judicial Watch for uh, finding me a lawyer to represent me pro bono in the lawsuit for the phone call that Thomas Crooks's parents made after the shooting. We only have a partial record of that. Pretty much, we have what the 911 dispatch heard, but once they transferred the call to Bethel Park Police, we don't have that full recording. God knows how long it is or what it says. Um, I'm backed by Judicial Watch, a multi-million-dollar organization, and they are filing a lawsuit, and they filed a motion for the judge to review the 911 call in camera to see if it's in the public interest to disclose.
Right.
Amazingly, this lawsuit was filed like last November, and Bethel Park Police has yet to respond. And
What?
yeah, and the judge, I need to look up the judge and see. It's got to be a different judge if you say your judge is good, because the judge hasn't even acknowledged the lawsuit yet. And I'm just thankful that Judicial Watch is like, they're probably love this, because that'll it's a bigger scandal, more publicity for them. I got to imagine that this is a similar case when Judicial Watch sued for records in Georgia they wanted to get the communications between Fannie Willis and the Justice Department, and Fannie Willis ignored their lawsuit, and she ended up having to pay like $30,000 in contempt of court fees.
Wow.
So it's looking like it might be headed in that direction. Hopefully, we'll have some action soon.
Wow. Well, it looks like you're in the same court of common pleas there in Allegheny County with Bethel Park. So I don't know. I can't imagine it would be Judge Regan. He, like I said, has been pretty professional, particularly given my other experience with judges. But I don't know. What do you think, Ken? It seems very bizarre that the FBI, they're basically done with this investigation. I mean, as you pointed out, it's been a year since they gave us this update with pictures of the backpack and various items of junk. And now we've got Dan Bongino basically, it's interesting. Very early on, even before he was in the FBI, Dan Bongino was buddied up with Jack Posobiec. Jack got super pissed off when I asked him why he didn't mention the second shooter in his book. That was really weird because, Jack is supposed to be one of these members of, the Fifth Estate, the independent journalism that you and I are trying to make the most cutting edge sort of reporting it can be. But yet he just seems like the next round of Operation Mockingbird to me.
Yeah, and I know Bongino pushed back on the two-shooter theory too. I don't know if Bongino knows anything about this case. He kind of just got in front of the camera and screamed, all these errors speaks to, it's more than incompetence, it's criminal negligence at the least, without providing any details. I do believe he was also one of the people that claimed that the sniper who shot the assassin did so from 488 yards away. The reason I know that is because Steve Baker from Blaze reported that as a fact. And when I challenged him, he said, well, it's not just me that said that. It was also Eric Prince and Dan Bongino, and we all had the same Secret Service source on the ground. And that turned out to be total misinformation. So something strange is going on here. Of course, Bongino also testified with Eric Prince and a local cop at this informal Heritage Foundation hearing, I think around this time last year, which is also bizarre because 90% of that hearing was just Bongino and Eric Prince like bloviating when you had a local cop, the Washington SWAT team member, Sniper Ben Schaefer was there. It's like, why? It should have been inverse. It should have been 90% of the questions were for the guy who was actually there, the sniper who claims he never saw the gunman. So it's just, people who think are pretending to be on Trump's side. I can't imagine that they're acting in good faith when it's like that bizarre, like that weird. Like, what are they even talking about?
Yeah, John Cullen really latched on to that 488-yard thing. And I mean, I agree with you. I wasn't really sure what the real evidence there was other than Eric Prince just saying it. I don't know Eric Prince at all. I mean, he's owning Blackwater and all that other stuff. So I don't know. Who knows what his agenda is. Why was Heritage Foundation running this? I mean, it just seems like a podcast more than anything, huh?
Yeah, and they've done this before, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz during the Biden administration. They would hold these informal hearings on like January Sixers being tortured in the gulag. So it is like a good avenue. These informal hearings are good for publicity. But this one was so bizarre because the guy, we're looking at the screen. He's Ben Schaefer. He was one of the snipers in the South bleachers that was about 300 yards away from the AGR. And he claims that he never saw the gunman the whole time. And he might have said like one or two other things. He said he defended the guys that were inside of the AGR building. He's like, well, they would have had to like stick their heads out the window to see the shooter. But he didn't provide many other details at all. Instead, it was all just Bongino and Prince. And I don't know what the lawmakers were thinking.
You know what? Now that I'm seeing Corey Mills, I remember some of the details of this. It was that they didn't allow Mills and Gates and some of these other people into the official, hearings. So they did this.
Your buddy in the background there?
Yeah.
Ivan Raikland.
Oh, I didn't see him there.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's interesting, isn't
it?
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, right. Eli Crane is there. See, I mean, that's the thing. There are people involved in this who I respect and think are trying to do the right thing. But you're right. When we see Ivan Raikland there, I mean, and Dan Bongino, I just wonder, are these guys trying to manipulate? I mean, look, just as I know that Eli Crane and Corey Mills are irritated that they haven't been made part of the official hearing, particularly given their expertise in firearms compared to some of the old ladies and lawyers that probably were part of the real hearing. I can see that these guys want to be a part of it. Ivan Raiklin and Dan Bongino could easily identify that as well. And I think one of the methods these guys like to use, Ken, is that they want to identify, and when I say these guys, I mean social engineers, people who want to manipulate an outcome. They identify the target and they identify what it is that you want. If it's money, they offer you money. If it's drugs, they offer you drugs. If it's women, men, whatever. But in the case of somebody with integrity, there's always something that somebody wants. You or I might want a good, source on a story, or we might want to have a good guest on a podcast, or an opportunity to appear with a good lawyer or something like that. They're going to try to get that to you and manipulate that. So when I see Ivan Raiklin inside a hearing like this, I become very suspicious that he might be somehow attempting to take advantage of even the people that are there wanting to do the right thing.
Yeah, Ivan's been popping up in the background in a lot of these hearings. I know you ran into him that day where the House Task Force issued its final report. So I don't even know what that guy's like. How does he make money anyways?
It's an excellent question, because I always run into him at these congressional hearings. I try to go as frequently as I'm able, but obviously my income is provided by everybody who sponsors the show, watches our sponsor exclusive segments that it's coming up right after this. People are going to be able to join us on substack.com/@KenSilva and the various Crowdsource the Truth sponsorship channels. But I can't go to every single congressional hearing. Almost every one I'm at, he's there. And even when I'm not there and I watch on YouTube, I see him there. And it's a good question. How does he make money? He is a bar member. He's a licensed attorney, but yet he doesn't seem to be trying any cases. Attorneys that I know generally are looking for clients and too busy to do most other things other than maybe appear on a show to talk about a case that they're on. It's very weird.
Yeah, and of course, we all know that he's the guy who was infamously pictured on January 6th in the crowd near the Capitol talking on a satellite phone, former, connections to the Pentagon, and yeah, it never charged. So very bizarre.
I didn't know, sorry to interrupt, but I didn't know that detail about the satellite phone. That's interesting.
I think that's I might be misspeaking, but I'm pretty sure Free State William Pope has posted about that.
Oh, wow. I bet you that's right. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I might, unless I'm confusing Raiklin with another FBI agent on that day.
Yeah, you know what? I think that might be the case. I do remember Free State Will posting a guy, and he said, "Who is this guy on the satellite phone?"
Okay.
And then separately, we've got pictures of Ivan Raiklin with a bullhorn. But you're right; it's still suspicious. What was he doing there? He's got a mask on while he was there, and he's very close to Michael Flynn. Raiklin.
Sorry to interrupt, but Ivan admitted that he was working for the feds. I forget his exact tweet. I have it bookmarked, but he claimed that he was sent in there to de-radicalize or something like that. This was right after Trump was inaugurated. Let me see if I can find it. I might be able to just search for Ivan in my bookmarks.
Yeah, the other nasty thing that Ivan Raiklin did, as I said, I met him at a congressional hearing. I met him at the John Durham hearing. And that was very interesting. Sorry. I first met him at the Twitter Files hearing. This guy is up in every single hearing. And then I met him, learned that he was an attorney, tried to hire him to represent me in Jankowicz v. Goodman. Nina Jankowicz brought I argue, unconstitutional restraining order against me that's currently being challenged in the Commonwealth Court in Virginia. And Raiklin participated in several meetings. He said he doesn't have a bar license in Virginia. He's only licensed in New York, and that he couldn't represent me, but he participated in several phone calls with other Virginia attorneys who I attempted to hire, none of which ultimately represented me. Then Raiklin actually came to the trial, Jankowicz v. Goodman. He's the only person other than Nina Jankowicz, her attorney, and the judge to actually witness me cross-examining Nina Jankowicz. And I'm so sorry we don't have that on video because, man, that was rich. But he knew everything about the case. And then the next time I saw him after Nina succeeded in that case and got an unconstitutional restraining order against me, one of the components was I wasn't allowed to post about her on social media, even via third parties. So he comes on my live stream at the John Durham, nothing to do with Nina Jankowicz, and he starts blurting out Nina Jankowicz. Now, why would anyone do that other than to deliberately harm me? He was trying to get me thrown in jail.
Yeah. Yeah,
Terrible.
that's definitely the tactic of a federal provocateur for sure. And yeah,
I
he
would
seems
say.
to be the Forrest Gump of these uh, deep cases just popping up everywhere.
It's amazing. He's more like a Star Trek Ferengi, I think he looks like to me. But so we've got a lot of other things going on with the FBI. You know, it's been a week since John Bolton had his house raided. Hasn't been indicted yet, hasn't been arrested yet. I still hope they do something with that, but it's so difficult to stay positive about these guys, Ken, because I have virtually no confidence in them.
Yeah, I haven't read the story, but New York Times did run a pretty interesting article last night, I think it published, where it looks like Bolton's in hot shit, deep shit, to be
Yeah.
honest. The evidence against him comes from a foreign government. I guess the CIA got a bunch of information that he may have leaked to a foreign government, and that's part of the case against him. So I do believe there's going to be action there. And good, this is a rare W. It doesn't really change the lives of, everyday Americans, so I'm not going to like throw a party about it. But it's good to see bad people meet justice. This is instills at least a little bit of confidence, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, it's the FBI handling it, so who knows which direction it will go in. The thing that I find so important about this, I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of my reporting on this, but when it first happened last Friday, the very first person outside John Bolton's house was Ben Wittes. And he was there at like 4 a.m. waiting for the FBI to show up. Like, how did he know about that? Why is he so concerned about that? And I mean, again, I don't know what the nature of the evidence is that the FBI had to raid Bolton, but I think John Bolton was very involved in this whole effort to impeach Trump over the Ukraine phone call. Benjamin Wittes, at the time, was the director of the Lawfare Institute. He's still on the board and the president of it. The money for it gets sent to Ben Wittes' personal home, which is quite weird and seems like a violation of nonprofit law as far as I understand. And also, one of the employees of the Lawfare Institute was Alexander Vindman. He was paid over $300,000 over the course of 2 years from a grant from the Pritzker Military Foundation, which is an Illinois-based 501c3 nonprofit. The Lawfare Institute is a Washington, D.C.-based 501c3. They're both 170 A16 organizations, meaning they are public nonprofit. Money that's contributed to them is tax deductible. They're not allowed to participate in politically partisan activity at all. But the bigger problem is the Lawfare Institute is not registered with the Secretary of State in Illinois or anywhere. And if it's raising funds in Illinois, it's definitely in violation of Illinois nonprofit law. There's so many opportunities for these things to be shut down and these deep state criminals in Washington, D.C. to be brought to justice. But, I mean, the FBI is too busy lying to Corey Comparatori's wife to get into any of this.
Yeah, yeah. I think, this is total speculation, but it was probably the case, or it might have been the case where John Bolton got heads up of the raid and he tipped off a couple of friendlies to him because I think like George Conway was out there too. It's
George
kind of
Conway
funny.
would have been told by Ben Wittes, though, and because Ben Wittes
Okay.
went live on his dog shirt News or whatever his stupid Substack is. And he was saying, oh, I'm the only journalist out here. He was super nervous. That's the other thing, Ken, you know. I mean, look, this isn't scientific, of course, but when you speak to someone and ask them what seem like normal questions like, what are you doing here outside John Bolton's house? And they're like, John Bolton's house? I don't know. Is that John Bolton's house? I had no idea. It's like, really? That's weird. What are you doing? And he even said in his live stream, Ben Wittes said he was speaking with the police, and he mentions that even the police asked him, what are you doing here? Because it seemed so weird that somebody would be out in front of this house before even the neighbors were. So Ben Wittes lives about 15, 20-minute drive away from John Bolton. So it was extremely suspicious. But here's the thing. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to get your insights into this horrible school shooting and some of the other things we know about the FBI and these anarchy networks on the internet. You introduced me to BX. She's doing a lot of research into 764 and all this kind of crazy stuff. So we'll be back. People should stick with us. Get onto substack.com/@KenSilva. Join us for the sponsor exclusive segment. You can also get it if you're sponsoring Crowdsource the Truth on Substack or on Subscribestar or Patreon. We'll be right back in 5 minutes. Thanks for watching, everybody.